Our speakers help thousands of organizations in dozens of countries to generate millions to billions of dollars in new sales and revenue. And in many cases, without hiring more salespeople or spending any more money on marketing. This has allowed many business owners, entrepreneurs, and employees to become millionaires and multimillionaires. International expert at no cost growth and optimizing business success. Help me welcome Kent Billingsley.
I want to give you a little bit of background. I started doing this work about 25 years ago, 2.5 decades. I know I started when I was 10, but actually 2.5 decades back, 1995-ish, started working inside companies and learning how to not grow them faster or grow them bigger or better, but actually how to optimize. Optimizing means how do you actually generate more sales, revenue, and profits using the fewest resources necessary. So a good way to unpack that definition is maximum results, minimum effort. And I started doing it back then, and then in 2002, I started my own firm and started working with companies, started sponsoring entrepreneurial groups and things like that. And it was interesting. I kept seeing the same graph everywhere I went. And now some of the graphs, especially the last couple of years, if you can see my cursor, the revenues were actually going down. This might have been the COVID years or in here. Companies took some serious dips, but overall, if I overlaid about 500,000 companies on top of each other, they kind of look like this. Here's the revenue line going through here, and then here's the expense line, almost trailing or tracking with it. Now, sometimes the expense line goes above the revenue line, but that little green river in there is profit. That little green river is what's left over. That's the money that's made in very generic terms. This is a business growth path, and I can't make this interactive because I've got to move so fast, but this is what I've seen all over the world, and it's been fascinating because basically what it's saying is we are using a lot of expense money, sales, marketing, hiring, all kinds of things to try to get this top line higher. And basically that comes down to most companies are actually buying growth. They're not investing, they're actually spending. They're burning and wasting a lot of money to try to get that top line. And people would argue, well, what's wrong with that, Kent? That's the way business is done. That's how it happens. Well, if you accept that and you're okay with that, then we can stop here and you can go back to your day job. If you're not happy with that, you're saying the same question I had, or I was actually asked to go figure out is how do we get this top line higher? And how do we get this line down here, the expense line, lower? Because that gap in here, that gap is the amount of money that the company makes. And whether it's the company it makes just to reinvest or the company it makes to keep or the money it makes to give back, that little bit of area right there is really the success of the business. Too many people, too many leaders, and even the marketplace measure the success of the business by how fast it grows. And there are a lot of companies, and I get the phone call to come in and pull them out of the ditch because they've grown really fast, but the firm doesn't make any money. And in some cases, it's actually losing money. And so that's a model that's accepted, but I don't think we have to accept it. And so let me move here to this next slide. And so here's kind of the lay of the land, is that the good news is on this business growth path is your business is bigger. Might be better, and you might have made some profit. That's this line here, but there's so many flaws. You've got, as you add things, you add more clients, you add more customers, you add more employees, you add more locations, you add more products and services. What you find in many of you that are CEOs or running companies, as you add a good thing, you typically add a bad thing. You add more headaches, more issues, more turnover, more layers of management, more bureaucracy. And so there's a lot of bad news over here that takes place. The other thing that's really important that you have to look at is this line down here. So we typically look at the profit and revenue line, top line, bottom line. But the other line that's really critical is this time. How long does it take to get here? And this is the one thing that you should be concerned about, you should worry about and think about is what is the speed to revenue, not necessarily how much revenue. And so my point down here, and if I could sum this up, is that the companies I talk with, work with, even last week in another city in Texas, They're really good at what they do. They really have the passion, the care. They offer exemplary products and services. So they're good at what they do. They're great at what they do, but they're not great at making money doing what they do. And that's the thing we want to fix. That's the thing we want to change. And so I come down here and I say, what we have to learn to do is get off the path that everyone else is on and get on a roadmap that actually doesn't build a bigger business, but actually creates business wealth. All right, let me go to the next slide because I want to show you the difference here that's really important. All right, in this slide, so I've got those original lines that I had on the last slide. Here's the revenue and here's the profit and here's what you make. When you change your path and when you start not focusing on growing the business, running the business, scaling the business, but when you start to focus on how can my business not trade products, services, and time for dollars, but how could my business actually leverage the value of what we actually do? In other words, and I'll say it this way, and I actually own the trademark, monetize the value. How do we monetize the impact, the results, the net benefits of what we do and turn that into as much money as fast as possible? That's creating business wealth. And so if you look over here, here's this same revenue line. And as you've read the book, and I hope you've got the book and you're learning from the book and applying the book, as you've learned from my book, there's lots and lots and lots of case studies of companies. There's one that started one of the chapters. It took them, I think 4 or 5 years to get to $5 million. And then from one meeting, we signed a $5.7 million contract. And so now all of a sudden they're experiencing that explosive growth. The beautiful thing behind this is this area down in here, because they didn't need 20 salespeople and 20 times 8 categories of cost, they actually were able to save all of this money down here, which creates business wealth. But the other thing is the speed. Instead of waiting another 5 years or however many years to get here, they were able to compress that back to here. And that's this time factor that's so important. So as you're thinking about your business, trying to grow your business, you got to think of, you know what, at what point, how fast could I get to that top revenue line? How fast could I double or triple the revenue, the sales, or the profits? Now, the other side that's interesting is down here as we look at the expense line, and it's much lower. And this simple graph that you know almost looks like it was done with chalk, the simple graph shows almost a 2/3 reduction in expenses. And I'll tell you where that comes from. I've got the data points and the research from companies all over the world. About 2/3 of what is spent in sales and marketing is a complete waste of time, money, and resources. Sadly, a lot of that money is actually used to erode the brand equity. Sales calls that turn the prospect off, marketing literature that confuses the marketplace, messaging that's so mushy that now the prospect's confused. Those dollars being spent actually start to slow down, sometimes down in here, slow down the growth line, even though the money's been spent. That's one that's really hard for a lot of business leaders to wrap their head around is, wait a minute, I'm spending all this money on sales and marketing and social media, then my business should be growing. It is, but you don't understand maybe the damage that you're doing to your brand. You don't understand the confusion that you're causing with your prospects. And you don't understand how you're mispositioning. And that was a big issue last week down in San Antonio. This organization, phenomenal at what they do, but they were actually, some of their language in their mission statement, you ready for this? In their mission statement, they were using what are called negative words, or instead of power words, they were using words that positioned them into the wrong space. That was in their mission statement. And so we see that a lot out there, and that's language that they felt good about, spent a lot of money and time putting together, didn't realize that the negative language was affecting their brand. So we look down here and we say, wow, we can get this phenomenal top line and we can use a lot less money, sometimes less or more. I never want to be that chainsaw Al that goes into a company and fires 1/3 of the salespeople, or I eliminate half the marketing. What I really look at is, how do we take what we've got, the head count, the dollars, the spend, how do we change it so we get so much more upside? So we can flatten this line down here. Now, here's another interesting phenomenon of what I see is the money that's misspent on the sales and marketing side, or misallocated or used improperly, affects the support and delivery side. In other words, if we got salespeople running around out there with their heads cut off, bringing in bad deals, who pays the price for bad deals? It's the operations, it's delivery, it's support. So now all of a sudden their costs start to go up. Sales is over here, made their number, got their commissions, they're all happy. But now the operations and delivery people are over here going, oh my God, we can't take another bad customer like that. We can't take another client who has expectations we can't meet. So now it's interesting how both sides of the equation, the sales and revenue side, dramatically impact or negatively impact the operations and support side. So the key here is, if you see now all this green, all of this here is business wealth. So what's important, or what's the value behind business wealth? Well, the first thing is you can get out of the ditch that 98% of all companies are in and leaders struggle with, and that's cash problems. Too many companies, most companies have all kinds of cash struggles. They don't have enough cash on hand. Their cash flow is inconsistent. They have little to no working capital, or on the backside, their receivables are becoming very latent. In some clients, sadly, one of the fastest growing departments, if you're ready for this, is collections. They're adding people to their team to go get the money that was already owed to them. How sad is that? I see some of you laughing. That's the truth. If you spend a day with me and go inside these companies, you find them that they're having to track down and go get the money that's owed to them, that they've already spent the resources to earn. And it's becoming worse. It's not getting better. And then we throw in the COVID times. Now we got inflation, the supply chain. But what's important to creating business wealth is you take so much risk out of your business. Time is not necessarily good for business. Time is not good for deals, because time means risk. More things can happen, more things can fall apart, deals can go away, prospects can drop out, customers can close their business. So time is a very dangerous thing to a company. So the faster you can do good things, the better off you are. The other side of this is, now with this excess money, you can better compensate and reward employees. You can create comp packages that your competitors can't offer. You can pay back your investors faster. Really big thing. This was pre-COVID. So many of my clients are saying, hey, Kent, I want to make a lot more money because I want to give a lot more back to society, community, the charitable institutions. We haven't been able to do that like we used to. Can you help us do that? And that's a big issue there. But then the key is, you can do that and you can always give money away. But if you don't have it, all of a sudden now you don't have the money to reinvest. You don't have the money to attract and retain. You don't have the money to advance your products and services. But now you do all those things, and now you've got extra cash in the bank. The title behind Entrepreneur to Millionaire was, how fast can I help entrepreneurs become millionaires, which includes their employees, which includes their stakeholders, which includes their investors. How fast can we give money back? And so this is a different path. This is creating business wealth. This is what I call the E2M roadmap to get you here as fast as possible. And here's the most important. Oh, real quick, bad news. You are going to have to think differently. This is not easy, as Mindy's going to share in just a little bit. This is really challenging. It's not easy. I've made it simple, but you're going to have to do a different kind of work. And I'll let her explain that in just a little bit. But the thing that I hope you own and take with you, that is, if this sounds too good to be true, as you read through my book, you'll learn and understand. And I know many of you out there read my book several times, looking at you as we've discussed. You are going to read lots of case studies, lots of examples how this actually plays out. But more importantly is, you don't need any more resources. You don't need to really hire more people. You don't need to spend more time on social media. Literally every company has so much untapped potential, whether you're an employee or a leader, to create more wealth, to reinvest back in the firm, to give back to society, and to compensate yourself or reward yourself. And so I'm down here at this point. Creating business wealth does not require any more time, money, or resources. You have enough. It's there. You don't have to grind any harder. You don't have to work any harder, but you do have to work differently.